congressional Republicans chose on December 31st to let these life-saving premium tax credits expire, even over the objections from members of their own party. For families already struggling to make ends meet, the consequences are immediate and devastating. Marketplace premiums have skyrocketed by an average of 114%, and these plans cost more and cover less. Enrollment will plummet, and millions of Americans will lose or forego coverage entirely. In New York, thousands will lose their marketplace-purchased health insurance, with hundreds of thousands more facing staggeringly high costs. Young people in communities of color will be hardest hit, reversing years of progress in 4 consecutive years of record high Affordable Care Act enrollment. And as this is happening, at a moment when the cost of living crisis is already crushing working families, the people of this country are saying enough is enough. This crisis did not happen by accident. Donald Trump and congressional Republicans chose tax breaks for the wealthy over affordable health care for everyday Americans. They pushed through the largest health care cuts in U.S. history, gutting Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act by more than $1 trillion. Now, instead of fixing the damage, Republican leadership is once again choosing to turn its back on families by letting these premium tax credits expire, a lifeline millions of Americans rely on to stay insured. When people lose coverage, they don't stop getting sick. They just stop getting care. And we all pay the price through worse outcomes, higher costs, and deeper inequities. Over the past year, many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have reminded us that elections have consequences. Well, I'm here to remind them that this fight transcends politics. Ripping away health care from hardworking Americans has life or death consequences. That is why Democrats have forced a vote to extend these credits this week. And that's why I intend to vote yes, because health care should not depend on your zip code, your job title, or the size of your paycheck. This fight is about priorities. It's about choosing care, dignity, and security for families instead of policies that push healthcare out of reach. Let's get this done. Let's take care of the American people. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Thompson, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to mark the end of an era. The oldest newspaper in Clinton County, Pennsylvania, ceased operations on December 31st. After 154 years of delivering the news, the weekly Clinton County Record, formerly known as the Renovo Record, has stopped publishing due to escalating costs, a declining subscription base, and a lack of advertisers. Despite these challenges, it has a long and storied past in history that began in 1871 when Renovo businessman John Upton Schaefer founded the Renovo Daily Record and published its first edition. The first issue of the Record noted that the letters for the printing press had not been delivered in their entirety until the previous day. The first half of the alphabet, from A through M, had arrived the previous week, but the first issue had nearly had to go to press without the second half of the alphabet. Fortunately, the rest of the letters were delivered in a time for publication. Back then, it was the daily paper, except Sunday, bring news to those who lived in the railroad town. In 1887, Schaefer was elected to the Pennsylvania State Legislature, and his son, John Schaefer Jr., took over the management of the newspaper. The elder Schaefer died in 1902, and his sons continued publishing. Since 1871, the Record has been 100% independently owned and operated with notable local names, publishing the paper after the Schaefers, including Ron Dremel, John Lopez, and most recently, Michael Frank. The newspaper covered local news, education, government, sports, and more. This is a devastating loss to the community that has relied on this paper since 1871. In 2021, on its 150th anniversary, the Record had a special print edition. This year, on its final publication, I was pleased and honored to have it reported that Bucktail Medical Center in Renova would receive more than $260,000 in federal funding to bring important upgrades to the facility. And I was honored to secure that funding. Mr. Speaker, it is never easy when we see our local institutions close, especially those that have played such an important role in our communities like the Record has over the past 154 years. My heartfelt thanks goes out to the staff who have worked diligently over the years to deliver the news to the people of Clinton County. For 154 years, through generations of change, the Record has been there, and we're all grateful for that. Mr. Speaker, this morning those are in the chamber, and perhaps those that are viewing in to see, we're missing an individual who has always been here at morning session, at noon first minutes, maybe after votes first minutes. A dear friend, Doug Lamoffa from California. Doug passed away yesterday. And in honor of him, as tradition has, we have reserved a seat, a memorial seat, in the first speaking position on the Republican side. And Doug was a great friend, a great agriculture leader, a champion for forestry and rural communities. We really traveled the country preparing for the farm bill that we've been working on, half of it being accomplished, another half to go. And he just a rice farmer, been on his farm in Northern California. Kind of a crazy muscle car driver, I can tell you that. Hung on tight riding with Doug. But Doug has left his mark. Our prayers go out to Jill and his family. Later this week, we'll have other opportunities where members on both sides of the aisle, I think, will be offering their tributes and memories to Doug. And so just, Doug, I just want to say, rest easy in the arms of God. We've got this. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair recognizes the member from Delaware, Representative McBride, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate that paid family and medical leave officially began in Delaware on January 1st. There is nothing that I am prouder of during my time in the Delaware State Senate than leading the successful effort to pass paid family and medical leave for workers and families across our state. After years of work and preparation, Delaware's paid family and medical leave program is finally a reality across our state. Paid family and medical leave is about dignity, plain and simple. It means a parent can be there for their newborn child, a worker can recover from severe illness, and a caregiver can support an aging parent. All of this without falling behind on groceries or rent. Paid leave will strengthen families, support small businesses, and make our state more affordable for the people who live and work in it. I was proud to work with my colleagues in the state legislature to pass this bipartisan achievement. Proof that when we listen to one another and focus on solutions, we can deliver for our constituents, something this chamber would do well to remember. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we have accomplished in Delaware. I'm grateful to all of the advocates who made this progress possible, including the Delaware Cares Coalition led by Liz Richards. And I will continue working to ensure paid family and medical leave is not just the law of the land in Delaware, but nationwide. Because good policy that is grounded in dignity, supported by a supermajority of Americans, is precisely the sort of work that we should be doing together. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life and legacy of Corporal Grade 1 Matthew Tyler Ty Snook. On December 23rd, just 2 days before Christmas, Ty Snook was shot and killed while working an overtime assignment at the DMV just outside of Wilmington. Corporal Snook served the state of Delaware as a trooper for a decade, known by his peers and his community as a dependable, professional, and committed neighbor. His death is a tragic reminder of the sacrifice that our law enforcement officers risk every single day to protect and defend us. At his memorial earlier this week, his loved ones painted a picture of Ty as a spectacular father, husband, son, and brother, a thoughtful friend, and an empowering colleague. Every speaker struck a similar chord. Ty was selfless and compassionate, deeply invested in the well-being of others. And that's a commitment to community that can be seen throughout his service. A native Delawarean, he was a graduate of St. Mark's High School and returned after college to serve in the Delaware State Police, where he was soon joined in that service by his brother, Josh. Ty was rising through the ranks and training the next generation of law enforcement. And the selflessness that defined his service was tragically on full display on December 23rd, when in his final moments, let us never become numb to senseless acts of violence like the one which took Ty Snook's life. Crimes like this one leave an indelible mark of pain and loss felt by so many, including his friends, family, his wife Lauren, and their 1-year-old daughter Letty. Cassie Snook Dunphy, Tyler's sister, said it best on Monday. Quote, "Tyler did not just pass on as a hero. He lived every day as one. Every day, I am thankful to the men and women of law enforcement like Tyler who risk everything in defense of all of us. And today, I speak in this hallowed chamber in honor of that hero, so that the name and service of Matthew Tyler Ty Snook will be enshrined in the history and record of the United States Congress forever." Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Minnesota, Ms. Fishbaugh, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor and recognize the distinguished career of Mary Krinke. For 25 years, Mary has served as the Vice President of Government Relations at the Minnesota Hospital Association. She is widely regarded as one of the most persuasive voices for Minnesota's healthcare systems and patient care. I have had the honor to work with her on various issues, both here in Congress and in the Minnesota State Senate. Her dedication to the healthcare community has left a permanent mark on Minnesota. Thank you, Mary, for your decades of service, and I wish you a long, happy, and well-deserved retirement. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize a distinguished member of the Minnesota agriculture community. I offer my congratulations to Dick Peshek of Taunton, Minnesota, who has been named the Minnesota 2025 Cattleman of the Year. This honor is well-deserved recognition of his decades of hard work, dedication to the livestock industry, and deep commitment to his community. We commend Mr. Peshek for upholding the best traditions of American agriculture. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to congratulate Jillian Schoenfeld and Braden Van Dyke from Russell Tyler Ruthven High School for their first place finishes at the FFA Winter Leadership Summit. Jillian placed first in the employment skills competition, and Braden placed first in the English Creed speaking event. Their hard work and commitment are a credit to their school and their community. Congratulations on your victories. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Oregon, Ms. Bonamici, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to express my profound opposition to this administration's aggressive and cruel immigration enforcement actions, especially targeting students and parents near schools. Throughout the last year, the Trump administration's hardline immigration enforcement campaign has terrorized communities and created an environment where many students don't even feel safe going to school. Children can't learn when they are living in constant fear. At a town hall meeting last year, a 4th grade student, a 10-year-old, gave me a handwritten letter saying she was afraid that ICE was going to come into her school and take her friends. Children may not understand the complexities of the immigration system, but they know that masked people indiscriminately kidnapping people off the street is wrong and terrifying. In July, a Beaverton, Oregon father was dropping off his child at preschool. With his child in the car, ICE surrounded him, traumatizing the child, other parents, and preschool teachers. ICE then arrested the father within sight of the school. In October, two Oregon high school students were at a drive-through coffee shop near their school. They were surrounded by multiple ICE agents who were pointing guns at them. That's terrifying, outrageous, and obviously dangerous. And at a recent city council meeting, an Oregon high school student bravely shared his concerns and the concerns of his peers, especially those who could not speak up for themselves because they're too afraid. This compassionate student has been raising money to help people in his community whose lives are being torn apart by this administration's immigration enforcement tactics. And Mr. Speaker, hundreds of students across Northwest Oregon have bravely protested the ongoing immigration enforcement happening in their communities. And I'm grateful for their acts of peaceful protest to call attention to these injustices. The reality is that too many students are afraid to leave their homes, even to go to school. And at a time when chronic absenteeism is at a record high, more students are switching to attending school online if they can, because they don't feel safe, or they've stopped going altogether. A small school district in Northwest Oregon told me that more than 150 students have withdrawn this year, an increase of 120 since this time last year. It's likely that most of them left school because they're afraid of ICE. Statewide, it's estimated that more than 10,000 students are now unaccounted for. Recently, the Department of Homeland Security claimed that the media is force-feeding the public stories about parents and children being scared. What the Department of Homeland Security wants people to believe, ICE is creating significant levels of fear, including around schools. Mr. Speaker, this is not about targeting criminals. It's about targeting, arresting, and detaining people because of their national origin or their color of their skin. This ought to send chills down the spine of everyone in this body and this country. As someone who's dedicated years of my career to education and striving to create a better future for children, I am appalled, but sadly not surprised that this administration continues to terrorize children using the same playbook as when they separated families at the border. Let me be clear. According to the United States Supreme Court, all children, regardless of their immigration status, have the right to attend public schools. The ICE tactics we are seeing targeting students and families will have lasting effects on children, families, and they will cause generational trauma. I urge my colleagues to show some empathy, show some kindness. Work with us to protect sensitive locations. Work with us on humane immigration reform. We cannot allow these abuses of power and these lawless actions to continue. Let's put an end to this ugly chapter in our country's history and do better for our nation and our children. Thank you, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Bumgardner, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise today to celebrate $181 million in rural health care funding for the state of Washington. Not long ago, right here in this chamber, I joined my House Republican colleagues to pass the Working Families Tax Cut, the largest tax cut in American history. And when we voted for this, we also voted for a new rural health fund. And $181 million of this rural health care fund will go to transforming Washington state. And this is just the first round of funding, part of a 5-year, $50 billion commitment to rural health transformation. This $181 million to keep our rural hospitals' doors open, to upgrade critical infrastructure, to expand access to emergency care, and to protect maternal health, and to strengthen tribal health services. Rural health in Washington is one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family. And this investment means more doctors, more nurses, more stable hospitals, and more peace of mind for the people who grow our food, power our grid, and keep our communities strong. I am proud to support this historic tax relief and this transformational funding. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate a special tradition of the congressional delegation of Washington State. Just a year ago, I was sworn into the 119th Congress and welcomed as one of the 2 new members of the Washington congressional delegation. And if you're wondering why I have an oil painting of a baby chick next to me right now, well, let me tell you, it's about one of the most charming traditions of our Washington delegation. The chick was bought at a charity fundraiser and presented to then freshman Congressman Joel Pritchard as a gift to his office in the early 1970s. Congressman Pritchard, as the story goes, wasn't too fond of the painting. So in true Washington fashion, he decided the honorable way to handle it was to re-gift the baby chick to the next new member of the Washington delegation. As such, he passed it on to Congressman Norm Dix in 1976, and then it went to Congressman Mike Lowry in 1979, and has been passed down ever since, with each new member of Washington State signing the back before giving it to the next new proud owner. The only congressman who didn't sign it was then Congressman Jay Inslee, and Congressman Inslee then lost his election. So when I was gifted the chick, I decided to give it a proper name, Baby J. And as I prepare to part ways with Baby J, to my Washington State colleague Emily Randall, I wanted to share this lighthearted piece of Washington delegation history and the spirit of continuity and camaraderie that it represents with the House of today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to celebrate the new football coach of Washington State University, Coach Kirby Moore. Just before the holidays, WSU hired Kirby Moore, a Washington native, as our new head coach. Kirby Moore is young, he's hungry, and he's armed with an impressive coaching resume. Coach Moore is ready to lead the Cougs to new heights in his first head coaching role. Kirby grew up going to Cougar football games and said, quote, "For me, this is home. We've got grandparents in the Palouse, aunts in Pullman and Spokane," and that his parents just built a house in the Tri-Cities, and that these are incredible memories for his kids, the same memories that he grew up with. So as such, Mr. Speaker, I welcome Coach Kirby Moore back to the Palouse, back home, and I look forward to his leadership of our Crimson and Gray. Go Cougs. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Rivas, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Sister Mary Jesus Ochoa of the Order of St. Francis in San Fernando. This week, she celebrated her 100th birthday. Sister Mary Jesus is a member of the Franciscan Sisters of the Immaculate. She has spent decades supporting our most vulnerable across the San Fernando Valley and in Mexico. During her service, she worked with children and families in need, emphasizing care, stability, and long-term support. Sister Mary Jesus played a key leadership role at the Poverello of Assisi retreat house in San Fernando. There, she helped provide retreat services, community support, and housing for young women and children. When earthquakes caused major damage to the retreat house and the surrounding buildings, Sister Mary Jesus led the rebuilding efforts to make sure services are not interrupted for those who need it the most. Sister Mary Jesus' work and a clear others with dignity and purpose. Happy 100th birthday, Sister Mary Jesus. The San Fernando Valley is grateful for your dedication to helping our community. Mr. Speaker, here we are, the first voting week of 2026, and Republicans are bringing up bills on showerheads. They are not doing anything to address the affordability crisis, ICE terrorizing our communities, Trump's illegal and unconstitutional actions in Venezuela, or other states of emergency. They have not done so during this Congress, even during the Los Angeles wildfires, which broke out 1 year ago today. These fires destroyed 16,000 structures, displaced over 200,000 residents, and took 31 lives. The bravery of firefighters from across the country who worked tirelessly to put the fires out and minimize damage will not be forgotten. While the fires caused great destruction and devastation, the strength and resilience of our neighbors to come together for our communities was on full display. 1 year later, communities across Los Angeles County are continuing to work toward rebuilding their lives and their livelihoods. As communities work toward a return to normal times, we need to minimize the long-term health consequences that wildfire debris may have on communities, especially communities like mine in the San Fernando Valley. My debris. As debris is being transported and stored throughout the valley, I have been adamant about making sure that my constituents are not subjected to the long-term health effects that they have traditionally been forced to bear. Recovery from these wildfires asks us to look ahead to make sure that when natural disasters strike, everyone can be prepared to recover equally. This is a core tenet of environmental justice. We must invest in resources that allow for communities and families to recover and rebuild their lives after disasters. This includes advocating for solutions that are informed by the voices of those who are most affected by climate disasters. Los Angeles has made progress in recovery, but we still have a long way to go. This urging the Trump administration to deliver nearly $34 billion in disaster funding to help Californians recover. This includes funding that supports rebuilding homes and schools, restoring critical road and water systems, reopening small businesses, and helping communities achieve lasting wildfire resilience. I will continue to push to make sure that residents in my district and across Los Angeles County have every federal resource available to them to rebuild their lives. Let us continue to rebuild with equity, care, and courage so our communities are safer, healthier, and more resilient for everyone. Thank you, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Bacon, for 5 minutes.
I thank the distinguished speaker, Mr. Calladeo from California. I rise today to honor Colonel Patrick Flood, United States Air Force retired, who recently departed the House of Representatives as our Deputy Chief of Staff and National Security Advisor after more than 39 years of federal service. Colonel Flood comes from a family with a distinguished record of federal and military service dating back to the American Civil War. Born in Baltimore, Colonel Flood was raised in Ohio and entered military service at the age of 18. He was nominated in 1986 to attend the United States Air Force Academy by Representative Ralph Regula of Ohio's 16th Congressional District. A distinguished graduate of the Academy, Pat established an early reputation for excellence in military leadership, academics, and athletics. In his senior year at the Academy, Flood commanded the Cadet Squadron 33 and was honored as one of the top squadron commanders in the cadet wing. As a commissioned officer, Colonel Flood's remarkable career spanned more than 26 years in the combat air forces and special operations communities. Serving in nearly every major U.S. military operation since 1981, Colonel Flood deployed for Operation Southern Watch, Provide Comfort 2, Deny Flight, Provide Promise, Uphold Democracy, Enduring Freedom, and Odyssey Dawn. His distinguished record also includes 2 tours of duty in Korea with service as a corridor control officer for the Eastern Demilitarized Zone, service as a continuity of operations officer for the Air Force Chief of Staff during the 9/11 attacks on the Pentagon, and aviation duty as an RC-135 crew member flying long-range combat operations over Afghanistan. Selected to lead several of the Air Force's most engaged, Flood commanded the 55th Wing's 488th Intelligence Squadron at RAF Mildenhall, England, led the 603rd Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Division at Ramstein Air Force Base, Germany, and commanded the Distributed Ground Station 2 and the 548th Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Group at Beale Air Force Base, California. Following my election to the House in 2016, I invited Pat to help me establish our Washington, D.C. office. We both arrived in Congress in January of 2017 with no prior legislative leader experience, and without hesitation or any formal training, for the next 9 years, Pat selflessly committed himself to learning and mastering Congress's complex legislative processes. Pat personally drafted hundreds of legislative bills and amendments, shaping America's national defense policy, force structure, and capabilities. The results of his efforts have been remarkable, with a significant number of his proposals enacted into law via the National Defense Authorization Act and the Defense Appropriations Act from the years 2018 to 2025. While no means exhaustive, here are some of the accomplishments. Quality of life reforms for the all-volunteer force and military families. Comprehensive management reforms for DoD's electromagnetic spectrum superiority policy. Numerous casualty assistance policies. Program reforms for Gold Star and surviving families. The first DoD program for integrated military civilian national emergency medical response. The reconstruction of Offutt Air Force Base following the devastating 2019 floods. The DoD's Warfighter Brain Health Initiative. The elimination of Russian fuel at U.S. military installations in Europe, the significant expansion of the EA-37 Compass Call electronic attack combat aircraft fleet, academic copyright ownership for civilian faculty members of DoD academic institutions, direct support to military service academy foundations, sustained funding for the Baltic Security Initiative, and significant funding to establish the first secure software development facility to modernize our aging nuclear command and control communications enterprise. However, these legislative victories only tell a small part of the story of the impact Pat has had. As my closest and most trusted advisor, he turned my intent and aspirations as a member of House Armed Services Committee into legislative action that delivered tangible progress and results for DoD, Nebraska, and for the men and women who commit and sometimes sacrifice their lives for our security and the defense of our freedom. Of Congress, I owe much of this to Pat Flood. Thank you, Pat, for your years of service to our great nation. I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Ohio, Ms. Sykes, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise because families in Ohio's 13th congressional district and across the country are already paying the price for Republicans' inaction on health care. The enhanced ACA premium tax credits expired December 31st, 2025. And now health coverage is more expensive and families are already feeling the impact. In my district, 90 relied on those subsidies. 4 out of 5 were previously able to find plans for $10 or less per month. That safety net is now gone. Families are seeing premiums jump by hundreds of dollars a month or thousands of dollars a year. And across the country, more than 4 million Americans have already lost or at risk of losing their health care coverage entirely. This isn't a theory. It is happening right now. In Canton, AltCare, a regional insurer tied to Altman Hospital, stopped offering some individual family and small business ACA plans before December 31st. That affects 6,000 people in my district. These are working families and small businesses, employees losing coverage because Republicans refuse to act. I'll fight to protect these credits by co-sponsoring, I fought to protect these credits by co-sponsoring legislation to extend them and by signing on to Leader Jeffries' discharge petition to bring the issue to a vote on the House floor. But instead of acting, Speaker Johnson and House Republicans chose to delay. And that action is simply unacceptable. And don't just take my word for it. Just a few weeks ago, Congressman Mike Lawler called Speaker Johnson's refusal to allow a vote idiotic and political malpractice. And I agree. But what happened? Speaker Johnson sent us home for the holidays while American families paid the price. Republicans also pushed a partisan healthcare bill that would make things much worse by increasing the number of uninsured people, shifting costs onto working families, and weakening the protections that so many Americans relied upon. I offered an amendment to protect working families from losing health coverage and to protect access to reproductive health care, but guess what? Republicans blocked it. So once again, they chose politics over people. We cannot forget the real people caught in the middle of this. Families deciding between healthcare and groceries, between medicine and rent. Access to healthcare should be a right, not a gamble. And at a time when we are talking about the horrors and tragic cost of the drug trade and the impact it has on American people, let us not forget, how do people get drug treatment? The Medicaid program that's already been cut by $1 trillion and ACA marketplace health plans. The Republicans' failure to act is literally going to kill people across this country. They let deadlines pass, premiums rise, and coverage disappear. That is not leadership. That is failure. And so, Mr. Speaker, the choice is clear. Congress can either act to restore affordable health care, or we can continue to let premiums soar, coverage vanish, and families face financial ruin. But I know one thing is for certain, Mr. Speaker, I was brought to Congress to work on behalf of the people of Ohio's 13th Congressional District to lower costs, to keep them safe, and to make sure that they had affordable, accessible healthcare coverage. Mr. Speaker, I encourage every single member of this chamber to do those things, not only for the people in my district, but for the people all across America who are asking and needing for Congress to act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Herodopoulos, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the life and service of Robert Neprath, who was proudly recognized as October Brevard County Veteran of the Month. He answered our nation's call during World War II, serving the United States Navy in both the Atlantic and Pacific theaters. As a petty officer, second class, he carried out vital responsibilities, supporting critical naval operations that contributed to Allied success in the Southwest Pacific. His service earned him multiple commendations, including the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, the Philippine Liberation Medal, and the European African Middle Eastern Campaign Medal. After his military service, Mr. Neprath built a life rooted in family, hard work, and community in Brevard County. He was known as a devoted father, husband, and grandfather, and as a man who deeply believed in civic duty, the importance of voting to safeguard our republic and our democratic values. Mr. Speaker, Brevard County and our nation is stronger because of patriots like Robert Neprath. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize an extraordinary Floridian and patriot, Debbie Ellen Moon. She was named Brevard County's November Veteran of the Month. Captain Moon dedicated 32 years of her life to serving our nation in uniform, answering the call in both the United States Air Force and the United States Army. After serving 22 years in the United States Air Force and rising to the rank of Senior Master Sergeant, she continued her service by becoming a commissioned Army officer, ultimately retiring as a captain in the Medical Service Corps. Throughout her distinguished career, Captain Moon deployed in Operation Desert Storm, served overseas in Korea, and led soldiers as a medical company commander. Her service has been recognized with numerous honors, including the Meritorious Service Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, among many others. Mr. Speaker, Captain Moon represents the very best of the Space Coast, selfless, resilient, and devoted to something greater than herself. Our nation is stronger because of her service, and Brevard County is proud to call her one of our own. Francisco Ramirez, who has been selected as January Brevard County Veteran of the Month. Mr. Ramos Ramirez proudly served our nation in the United States Army, answering the call of duty during a critical moment in our history. He served in Vietnam, where he conducted reconnaissance missions, some of the most dangerous and demanding assignments in combat. He served honorably, even volunteered to remain in Vietnam for additional time, demonstrating his extraordinary courage and selflessness. For his service, Mr. Ramos Ramirez earned the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, and 2 Bronze Service Stars, and the Vietnam Campaign Medal, decorations that reflect both his valor and his sacrifice. Like so many of our veterans, his legacy extends beyond the uniform. His commitment to protecting our freedoms remind us that the liberties we enjoy today were secured by Americans willing to put country before self. On behalf of Florida's Space Coast and a grateful nation, we thank Luis Francisco Ramos Ramirez for his service, his sacrifice, and his example of leadership.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Latimer, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to recognize and salute the dynamic faith community of Bethesda Baptist Church in New Rochelle as they welcome their new pastor, Reverend Horace Sanders Jr., and his wife, Lady Katrina Sanders, to the pulpit.
Bethesda Baptist will be celebrating this month over Installation Weekend, highlighted by a congregational celebration gala on Friday night, January 16th. The faithful of Bethesda have given God the glory for over 138 years, since 1888, with weekly Sunday services, Friday morning prayer line, Wednesday Bible study, programs for seniors on Tuesdays and Thursdays, food pantry for the needy and hungry, and programs targeted to the youth of the community. Pastor-elect Sanders served for over a decade at Mount Olivet Missionary Baptist Church in Schenectady and previously in Peekskill. His energetic leadership was on display last week when Bethesda hosted Watch Night services, joined by 2 other New Rochelle congregations. Reverend Sanders' sermon, Leave the Baggage Behind, was a perfect theme to start the new year and his new responsibilities at Bethesda. We welcome him and Lady Katrina to New Rochelle from the floor of the House of Representatives, and we look forward to his many contributions in the days to come. Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor Archbishop C. Nathan Edwards, spiritual leader and senior pastor at Friendship Worship Center in Mount Vernon, as he celebrates his 65th birthday this month. His congregants, friends, and admirers will gather that weekend for a festive event in his honor, and we join in that recognition for a man of God who has been a leader in the community inside and outside of his church. Bishop Edwards holds a number of academic degrees, including a doctorate from United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio. He began his ministry in 1983 and came from Brooklyn to Mount Vernon in 1989 to lead the Friendship Worship community. He has grown the church dynamically with outreach to embrace a large presence in the Mount Vernon community with a religious vision for worship, prayer, Bible study, and a community vision for services to the youth, the seniors, and those in need with food delivery, after school and summer programs, warming center for the homeless, foster family services, and more. Bishop Edwards has held numerous positions in the church organization, also in the Masons, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and is a founder and leader of the United Black Clergy of Westchester County. All of this with his wife, Ero Denise Edwards, as his life partner. All of this in a mere 65 years. Happy birthday, Bishop Edwards, from the floor of the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, in a world where local newspapers and radio stations are disappearing, it is valuable to recognize and salute those organizations that are continuing to provide information about our local community's life and times. In Westchester County, we owe a public debt of gratitude to Shoreline Publishing, which serves the people of Southern Westchester with 5 community newspapers, a countywide Jewish monthly newspaper, and a full-color quarterly magazine, Westchester Women. Under the leadership of President and publisher Edward Shapiro, Shoreline provides an information lifeline across our towns with the Pelham Post, the Bronxville Bulletin, the Harrison Herald, the Larchmont Ledger. As you can see, alliteration still has its appeal, and the New Rochelle Review. Editors Cynthia Pena and Joyce Farrell ensure timely local news reaches the readers in each community, as well as the readers of Westchester Jewish Life, which is always available in local synagogues and temples. Other key Shoreline executives round out the local team, Lawrence Levine and Mary DeYoung. Thank you, Shoreline Publishing, from the floor of House of Representatives, for continuing to keep local news at the forefront of our hometowns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Sismani, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today with a heavy heart to honor my friend, Dr. Calvin Baker, an education giant in our community who sadly passed away on December 26th this past year. It is nearly impossible to put into words what Cal meant to our community. So, Nancy, I am so sorry for your loss. Cal Baker was a truly devoted husband, father, and friend, and a transformational leader in public education. For 32 years, Cal served as a superintendent of the Vail School District, dedicating his life to students, to educators, and families across Southern Arizona. During his tenure, Cal pioneered K-12 education in Arizona, guiding Vail's growth from fewer than 400 students to nearly 14,000 students by the time he retired in 2020. His legacy lives on through the Cal Baker Leadership Center, a lasting tribute to his service and vision. Cal is remembered for his strength, his wisdom, his faith, and deep love for his family and his community. Throughout his entire health battle, he kept a positive attitude and always had a smile to give. Though he's no longer with us, his impact will be felt for generations. In a loving message, his family described Cal as a man of grit and perseverance, words that perfectly capture his life's work and his heart as well. Laura and I were honored to know Cal and are heartbroken by his passing. We are keeping his lifelong bride, Nancy, the love of his life, their family, and all who loved him in our prayers. We lost one of the greats. Thank you, Cal. Rest in peace, my friend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor Mr. Stu Carter, a veteran, a pillar of the Sierra Vista community, and a friend to so many who sadly passed away in November of 2024. Stu Carter exemplified a life of service. He's a retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. He dedicated more than 45 years to military and federal service. Even after retiring, Stu continued giving back, combining his passion for cycling with a deep commitment to supporting fellow veterans. In 2017, Stu founded the VeloVet Sierra Vista, a nonprofit that provides disabled veterans with adaptive bicycles in a supportive community to help them regain mobility and also connection. Laura and I were honored to ride with Stu and the VeloVets in 2024, and again this past December for the inaugural Stu Carter Memorial Ride held in his honor. Through VeloVets, Stu became a vital resource for veterans living with physical injuries and PTSD. He also served as a president of Cochise Bicycle Advocates, helping secure grants that brought dozens of bikes, bike racks, and bicycles to Sierra Vista and improved cycling safety and accessibility. Beyond cycling, Stu served numerous organizations, including the Air Force Association of Arizona, the Sierra Vista Commission on Disability Issues, the Southern Arizona Veterans Memorial Cemetery Foundation, and the Volunteer Interfaith Caregiving Program. He's remembered for his compassion, organization, and tireless dedication to others as well. Stu Carter's legacy of service will live on in these veterans and in our community that he so faithfully served. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today. Well, that's the last one that I have. Mr. Speaker, I yield back. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Connecticut, Ms. Hayes, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to celebrate the life of Joyce Reed Coleman, who passed away on December 15th after a courageous battle with cancer. Poochie, as she was affectionately known, was beloved by the community. After overcoming many challenges in life, she decided to channel all of her energy to giving back. While employed at the Seaman Company, she spearheaded many annual events and programs for employees, including the Haunted Cafe for the children of employees, a Thanksgiving feast, and a Christmas extravaganza. Joyce created big, bold, and beautiful productions to expand her service work to the Waterbury community. As an entrepreneur, she opened New York Handbags Plus Dresses in downtown Waterbury. Through her organization, Joyce provided the means to send children to the prom. She worked closely with all of the high schools to select students to receive services. These services included gowns, tuxedos, shoes, haircuts, hairstyling, manicures, pedicures, all the accessories, flowers, pictures, and even transportation. Her love for children inspired her to create the Back to School Kids Day, an all-day event providing food, games, activities, and free haircuts for all of the children. Her love for her community was unprecedented. During the holiday season, her organization would provide Thanksgiving dinner to the homeless and those in need, toys for children, and blankets for the sick and shut-in. Even as she was in hospice, she hosted a large Thanksgiving dinner this last Thanksgiving. Joyce dedicated her life to God and was a faithful servant at the Grace Baptist Church in Waterbury, Connecticut. Her generous, giving, and loving spirit made her a unique blessing to so many. Her work was celebrated in the city of Waterbury and throughout the state of Connecticut. To say that her loving spirit will be missed by all who knew her is an understatement. I pray for her husband, Gene, and the family, and I say today that Joyce, you will surely be missed. Rest well, Gucci. You've earned it. And with that, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from New Jersey, Ms. Poe, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to recognize Christine Olrus and Melanie Paranisi, two exceptional educators in Lodi, New Jersey, whose dedication to their students and community exemplifies the very best of public education. A graduate of Lodi Public School, Christine returned home to serve the district that shaped her. Since joining Lodi in 2012, she has grown from school counselor to supervisor of school counseling, overseeing guidance and mental health support for students across her district. Working with first-generation college aspirants, English language learners, and students from working class families, Christine has demystified college applications and financial aid. She has opened doors that once seemed out of reach. Her leadership has helped raise Lodi's high school graduation rate from roughly 3 in 4 students to nearly 90%. Melanie Paranisi, an English teacher at high school, brings the same commitment to her classroom every single day. With 2 decades in the profession and 7 years serving Lodi students, Melanie's lesson encourage critical thinking and creativity. She also pioneered an academic yearbook course allowing students to design, write, and produce the school's yearbook, building collaboration and pride in their work. Colleagues praised her exceptional ability to make every student feel seen and valued. Both Christine and Melanie were named New Jersey Exemplary Educator in 2025. An honor reserved for educators who demonstrate true leadership and positive influence on students and colleagues. At a time when school districts face growing challenges and diminishing resources, educators like Christine and Melanie continue to step up, providing stability, opportunity, and hope for young men and women. Together, their work reminds us that investment in public education is ultimately an investment in our communities and our future. Christine and Melanie represents the very best of public education, and I am proud to honor them today. Mr. Speaker, while we're talking about education in America, I want to talk about something more serious. The Department of Education's continued war on our schools. Last month, without warning, the department informed 8 schools in our district that it was rescinding $8 million in critical funding. I urgently appealed to Secretary McMahon. My office met with the department, and our school districts repeatedly sought engagement. We were ignored. Over the holidays, the department informed us that the cuts were final and will begin immediately. Over the next 3 years alone, schools in our district will lose millions of dollars promised and planned for. The program has already shown positive educational outcome, and the negative consequences for our kids will be felt for years to come. Our school districts have been willing to work with the Trump administration to remedy any issue to find a fair path forward. But that willingness has not been matched. Across the U.S., the Department of Education is dismantling public schools. New Jersey is the latest victim. I will continue working with our district school officials to use every single tool available to restore this funding and to fight to support public education. I will not give up on our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Smucker, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, I rise to recognize and thank an extraordinary public servant, Joanne Horn, who has retired after decades of faithful service to the people of Pennsylvania's 11th Congressional District. Joanne has been a valued member of my staff since 2017, and before that, she served for 20 years working for Congressman Joe Pitts. For nearly 3 decades, Joanne has been a steady, compassionate presence for constituents across the 11th District who needed help navigating Washington's vast alphabet soup of agencies and departments. We did some calculation, and during her time in my office alone, not counting her time with Congressman Pitts, Joanne helped more than 7,500 individuals, secured over $46.8 million in savings and benefits that were rightfully owed to the people we serve. But those numbers only tell part of the story. Joanne helped seniors with Social Security, families navigating economic assistance during COVID, veterans, and countless others who felt overwhelmed and unheard until Joanne stepped in. She didn't just do casework, is what we call it. She actually changed lives. Joanne treated every constituent with dignity, persistence, and care, and she never gave up on someone who needed help. There's truly no one quite like Joanne Horn. Our office, our district, and our Commonwealth are better because of her service, and we are deeply grateful as she begins this next chapter. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to congratulate and recognize Roots Country Market on their 100th anniversary. Roots Country Market is a farmer's market and auction based in Manheim, Pennsylvania. The market's history stretches back to 1925, when it was founded by A.W. Root as a poultry auction. Since then, they've expanded to include homegrown produce, handmade goods, and a flea market, the last of which was acquired in 2005. Today, there are 250 stands in Roots Country Market, 180 stands at Roots Old Mill Flea Market across the street, and 2 auctions. Roots operates every Tuesday year-round and sees up to 10,000 visitors each week. While seeing tremendous growth in the century since its founding, the market has stayed true to its roots. Roots remains family-owned and is currently led by 5th-generation market master Emily Longnecker-Rainier. What began as a poultry auction a century ago has become a staple of Lancaster County's heritage. As Roots Country Market celebrates 100 years in business, I thank the family and their stand holders for making our community a vibrant place. Congratulations to Roots Country Market, and I wish them another century of success. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to congratulate and recognize the 3 individuals from Pennsylvania's 11th Congressional District who were installed as 2025 to 26 state officers for the Pennsylvania FFA. State President Sarah Firestone, State Vice President Sarah Bollinger, and State Secretary Leah Flinchbach. Having emerged from a vigorous nomination and election process, a total of 7 state officers were chosen to lead the Pennsylvania FFA this year. 3 of the 7 individuals belong to chapters in Pennsylvania's 11th Congressional District. Sarah Firestone, the new president, is a member of the Garden Spot FFA chapter and a graduate of Lampeter Strasburg High School. The new vice president, Sally Bollinger, a member of the Cloister FFA chapter and graduate of Ephrata High School, and the new secretary, Leah Flinchbaugh, a member of the Eastern York FFA chapter and graduate of Eastern York High School. Agriculture is crucial to Lancaster and York counties, and the newly elected officers have demonstrated both passion and knowledge of our local community. I commend Sarah Firestone, Sally Bollinger, and Leah Flinchbaugh for their leadership in the Pennsylvania FFA. As they settle into their new roles and prepare for bright futures ahead, I wish them continued success in all of their endeavors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Chu, for 5 minutes.
One year ago today, the communities of Altadena and Pasadena that I represent in California were struck by tragedy. In just a matter of hours, the Eaton fire, driven by hurricane-force winds reaching 90 miles an hour, forever changed the communities my constituents have called home for generations. The fire destroyed over 9,000 structures, most of them single-family homes. It scorched over 14,000 acres, decimating entire neighborhoods and turning places of worship, schools, restaurants, and community institutions to rubble. And most tragically, it took the lives of 19 of our loved ones, neighbors, and friends. We have recently learned that 440 additional people across Southern California died in the month following the fire due to delays in medical care and exposure to toxic elements. The Eaton fire was the second most destructive wildfire in California's history. Those we lost has left a void that cannot be filled. They are in our thoughts on this one-year anniversary of the fire. We remember Anthony Mitchell Sr., a 68-year-old father, grandfather, and great-grandfather who brought everybody together. And we remember his son, Justin, who was born with cerebral palsy and was known for his infectious smile. Anthony and Justin both died waiting for help that they would never receive. We remember Victor Shaw, who resided in his beloved Altadena home for 60 years and who died with a garden hose in his hand fighting to save his property. These are just a few of the stories of those we lost, all of whom were taken far too soon. And that is why today I have introduced a resolution with Representative Sherman and Senators Schiff and Padilla to commemorate and honor all the lives that we lost in these fires. But even in the darkest days and every day since, survivors have shown extraordinary resilience and strength. First responders put their lives on their lines to save others. Neighbors opened their doors to offer shelter to those who had nowhere to go. Organizations, big and small, came together to make sure our neighbors who had just lost everything had a warm meal, a roof over their head, and a shoulder to cry on. And federal, state, and local governments mobilized to get families the help they needed, help that has made a tremendous impact on our road to recovery and rebuilding. Emergency operation hubs were propped up in a matter of hours. Recovery centers were created at an amazingly rapid speed so that survivors could access free individualized guidance and assistance when they needed it most. And on top of that, FEMA approved over $150 million in housing and other emergency assistance. SBA approved over $3 billion in loans for small businesses, homeowners, and renters. And the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers did an amazing, fast residential wildfire cleanup. It was the fastest in our nation's history. These efforts saved lives and laid the groundwork for recovery, but the work is nowhere close to being complete. And every day that Congress and the Trump administration continue to delay, recovery becomes harder and more expensive. Families have already waited a year while rebuilding costs rise, housing shortages deepen, and displacement assistance expires. Disaster aid is not a favor. It is a responsibility. Returned home. and the majority have not even begun the arduous process of rebuilding. Almost half of survivors still reside in either temporary or unstable housing. Families are exhausting their savings, taking on debt, skipping medical care, and making impossible choices just to get by. Small businesses are struggling to reopen, and families whose homes are still standing but are contaminated with dangerous toxins are being forced to decide between a place to sleep and their health. Survivors need our help, and they need it right now. And that is why I say something very important. President Trump and congressional Republicans must fulfill their responsibility to help communities impacted by disaster and fully deliver Governor Newsom's $34 billion disaster supplemental request with no strings attached. I've joined Democrats and Republicans across California in urging the administration to act immediately. Families can't afford further delay. We do not abandon people
The
after
gentlewoman's time has
disaster.
expired.
And I yield back.
Chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Colorado, Ms. Daggett, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right now, we have a chance to protect Americans from going broke. On January 1st, families across the country were hit by the largest healthcare cost increases we've seen in more than a decade. Millions of Americans watched their premiums more than double overnight. A family of four making $128,000 a year, teachers, nurses, small business owners, just got slapped with an average $14,000 increase in their silver premium plans. As the senior Democrat on the Health Subcommittee of Energy and Commerce, I've been raising this issue along with my colleagues for many months now. But despite the warnings, President Trump and congressional Republicans did nothing. They could have had a vote in December, but yet they blocked Democratic efforts to extend the Affordable Care Act's enhanced premium tax credits. They looked Americans in the eye and they said no. But we have an opportunity to fix this right now. This week, we can pass the bill that would extend the ACA's premium tax credits for 3 years. This extension will cut premium spikes by 80% on average. It will wipe out increases for lower income families, and it will save over 5 million Americans from losing their insurance. This is the solution. We have it in our hands. And while this is a straightforward fix for the short term, we know that our entire healthcare system needs to have reform so that we can control costs. I was part of the original team that negotiated and passed the Affordable Care Act. While we were forced to accept less than the universal health care plan we wanted, we secured protections that have since saved tens of thousands of lives. Ending discrimination against people with pre-existing conditions, letting parents keep their kids on their insurance policies while the kids start their career, guaranteeing that every plan covers basic essential care. The majority, since that time, in the last 15 years, has tried to destroy it. They have voted more than 70 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act, and always with no replacement. 70 times. They've subjected the ACA to death by 1,000 cuts, offering nothing but snake oil alternatives like high deductible plans and health savings accounts that would leave families high and dry. When we passed the ACA on this floor, I said, this is just a start to affordable universal health care. Democrats have worked to improve the ACA. That's why we passed the tax credits in the first place. Millions of people signed up, and they were able to sleep without worrying about one hospital visit bankrupting their family. My colleagues on the other side want to rip that away for reasons I have no idea. This crisis has shown the only solution is ultimately universal health care. I've been a co-sponsor of the Medicare for All Act since day one because I know it will guarantee a healthy nation. Unfortunately, my colleagues across the aisle have made it crystal clear they have no appetite for meaningful reforms like Medicare for all. So here's what we need to do right now. We need to extend the enhanced tax credits. They're the only thing standing between millions of Americans and complete financial devastation. In my state of Colorado, we did the right thing. The state stepped in with our own tax credit, but not every state is Colorado. Americans in states like Florida and Texas will be out of luck. And in Colorado and every other state, we can't afford to take this burden on forever. We need a nationwide solution. And we have the votes for this fix. 4 Republicans joined us in the petition to bring this bill to the floor. We must pass it, bring it to the floor, pass it in the House, and send it over to the Senate this week. And President Trump must sign it into law. If we don't, here's the reality. Families will drop health coverage to put food on the table, gambling with their lives. Medical debt will bury them, bill by bill, week by week. They'll keep waiting for the Trump healthcare plan that will be promised, but will never come. For anybody at home sitting there asking, do the Republicans know what they're doing? The answer is, sadly, yes, they do. Americans are watching. They know that the Democrats are fighting like hell for them and for their health care. Now they're waiting to see if the majority has any conscience left. It's time to vote yes.
Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess until noon today.